Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. Here are this evening's headlines. Setback to Prakash Singh Badal-led Punjab government. Supreme Court quashes legislation involving water issue with Haryana. Punjab Congress MLAs resign in protest. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley allays fears on demonetization as people throng banks and post offices to deposit defunct 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. RBI all set to reintroduce 1,000 rupee notes in a few months. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves on a 3-day visit to Japan. Annual summit meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to witness signing of civil nuclear deal discussions on trade cooperation. And demonstrations erupt in the United States against Donald Trump's presidential election win. Crowds criticize his controversial campaign rhetoric on immigrants. And in the big setback for Punjab, the Supreme Court on Thursday held as unconstitutional the 2004 law passed by the state government to terminate the Sutlej-Yamuna Link Canal water sharing agreement with neighbouring states. The judgment states Termination of Agreements Act of 2004 is unconstitutional and that Punjab could not have taken a unilateral decision to terminate the water sharing agreement with Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Jammu and Kashmir, Delhi and Chandigarh. Thursday's judgment implies that the 2004 Act was not in consonance with the Apex Court judgment of 2003, which had mandated the construction of the SYL canal that has been stalled.
ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का निर्णय राष्ट्रपति महोदय तक जाएगा और राष्ट्रपति महोदय निश्चित रूप से वो जो एक्ट पारित हुआ है उसको वापस लौटाएंगे और जो फैसला हरियाणा पंजाब का एसवाईएल के पानी के बंटवारे का हुआ है वो लागू होगा, उसमें कहीं कोई अब गुंजाइश नहीं।
अभी सिर्फ इतना बताया है कि जितने के जो पंजाब सरकार का फैसला था यूनिलेटरल ब्रेक करने का जो एग्रीमेंट था हरियाणा पंजाब के बीच में, वो गलत फैसला था पंजाब सरकार का। अभी एक लाइन का जजमेंट ऐसा ही बोला है, इसका जो इफेक्ट है वो ये है कि नहर का पानी हरियाणा के वासियों को मिलेगा।
Soon after the verdict, Punjab Congress President Amarinder Singh resigned from his Lok Sabha seat while his party MLAs resigned en masse from the State Assembly to protest the decision. The party MLAs sent their resignations to the Speaker of the Punjab Assembly. Punjab goes to polls early next year.
I am very disappointed, I am very unhappy, I am very sad for Punjab that this decision has taken this place. You mustn't forget that this was the issue that brought about trouble in Punjab 30 years ago. And we don't want that scenario to take place. That's one. We want a law and order to be maintained. That's the first thing. Second issue is that we would like to protect the rights of our farmers, and because the whole of southern Punjab will go dry if this happens.
इस सारे इशू में पंजाब सरकार और सेंट्रल सरकार बुरी तरह से पंजाब का पक्ष रखने में बुरी तरह फेल हो गई है। ना ही पंजाब सरकार ने पक्ष रखा पंजाब का सही माने में अदालत के सामने, जिस कारण फैसला अगेंस्ट आया, और जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का केंद्र सरकार का जो वहाँ पे एडवोकेट जनरल था, उन्होंने भी पंजाब के अगेंस्ट ही वहाँ पे सब कुछ बोला। तो हम उनके रोष स्वरूप पंजाब विधानसभा से सारे विधायक इस्तीफा दे रहे हैं।
Well, joining me on the phone line right now is our correspondent Vishal Dahiya. Vishal, this is a big decision as far as the Supreme Court is concerned and a major setback for Punjab.
Well, yes, indeed, it is a setback for Punjab, and given the fact that the elections are around the corner in this particular state, so that's why we see this hectic political activity after that Supreme Court's decision. We've seen how the Congress's state president and Lok Sabha MP Captain Amarinder Singh has put in his papers from his Lok Sabha seat, as well as the party's MLAs have also resigned from the assembly. This can be simply turned as a political gesture from the Congress party. But also interesting to see is that the Punjab Chief Minister has convened a cabinet meeting in a short while, and it will be really interesting to see as to what will be the official stand of the Punjab government from here onwards, and making things a little difficult for the BJP right now politically is the very fact that they have the government in both the states the Haryana government is led by the BJP, and the BJP is also a coalition partner in Punjab. And at the center also, it's a BJP-led government. So the party will have to walk a very tightrope walk, on this particular issue in the state of Punjab specifically, because the state will go to elections in next few months, and as it is, the Shiromani Akali Dal BJP government is fighting a heavy anti-incumbency, given the fact that they've been in power for 10 years. So clearly, from here on, it's the politics on this matter which will take the center stage.
Indeed, it is the politics that will take center stage, and we've seen that the BJP, like you rightly pointed out, is in a catch-22 situation at the moment. Thank you so much, Vishal Daya, for joining us there with all those details and putting things into perspective for us. Moving on now, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Thursday sought to allay concerns of the nation after the government's decision to demonetize high-denomination currency. Jaitley stressed that decisiveness is the hallmark of the current government.
As people queued up to deposit and exchange their 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley once again assured the country that depositors will not be harassed over small deposits. Speaking at the Economic Editors Conference, Jaitley said that the country might face problems initially, but in the medium and the long run, they will definitely benefit.
So people who have small amounts of cash, there has been an Indian tradition to keep some cash always at home for exigencies and emergencies which is required. They can exchange that, they can deposit that into their accounts. And the revenue departments are not going to take notice of these small depositors.
The government is also all set to reintroduce the 1,000 rupee banknotes in a few months and also issue a new series of lower denomination bills with enhanced security features. To crack down on black money hoarders, deposits above 2.5 lakh will be taxed and could draw a 200% penalty if found disproportionately higher than the account owner's income.
The 1,000 rupee notes will also be brought into the market with a completely new design and new dimension, new design, new color combination, which will look distinctly different from the old one.
The Finance Minister also said that the centre is making all efforts to build consensus on sticky issues, especially on jurisdiction of assessees, to ensure the GST rollout from April 1, 2017. Triti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the demonetization decision by the government on Tuesday has attracted more criticism from the opposition parties. The opposition today highlighted problems faced by the common people in depositing and exchanging old currency notes in the banks. On the first day that the banks opened after the demonetization decision, opposition parties once again criticized the government for heaping trouble on the common man.
ये तो बिल्कुल ही जल्दबाजी है। ये ऐसे कैसे है कि आप 10 बजे टेलीफोन पे आए और 12 बजे तक कहेंगे भाई हिंदुस्तान की करेंसी खत्म हो गई। ये तो नादिरशाही कानून है। ऐसा तो लोकतंत्र में तो नहीं होता है, डिक्टेटरशिप में ऐसा जरूर होता है।
चारों तरफ लोग कह रहे हैं और इस बात के सबूत हैं कि जी जो इनके अपने लोग थे, जो इनके अपने दोस्त थे, जिनके पास सबसे ज़्यादा काला धन है इस देश के अंदर, वो इनको इन्होंने पहले से ही बता दिया था हफ्ता भर पहले। अरे काला पैसा तो शुरू हो गया, दलाली शुरू हो गई। ऑलरेडी बाजार के अंदर हजार रुपए 800 रुपए में बिक रहे हैं। 500 का नोट 400 रुपए के अंदर बिक रहा।
तो एक कदम भीतर के काले धन के लिए इन्हें उठाया है, लेकिन बाहर का जो पैसा था उसके बारे में बहुत प्रचार इन्होंने किया था।
Political parties from election-bound Uttar Pradesh also joined the chorus. While BSP called it an undeclared economic emergency, the Samajwadi Party sought the suspension of the move for a week to help the common people.
अब इनको अपने काले धन की याद आई है। 2.5 वर्षों के अंदर, यानी कि जैसे इनकी सरकार बनी थी, तो तब इनका ध्यान इस देश में जो काला धन है उसकी तरफ क्यों नहीं गया? यानी कि इन्होंने देश में काले धन की तरफ, विदेशों से काला धन वापिस नहीं आया।
आपको केवल चुनाव दिखाई दे रहा है भारतीय जनता पार्टी, केवल भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चुनाव देख रही है, देश को नहीं देख रहे। जबकि सबसे पहले आम जनता, गरीब जनता को दिखना चाहिए, महिलाओं को दिखना चाहिए।
With the banks opening for the first time after the government's decision to demonetize 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, long queues were seen outside all banks and post offices with people trying to deposit and exchange their old currency notes. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha Television. Well, with new denominations available in the banks and post offices across India, huge queues of people to exchange 500 and 1,000 rupee notes were seen on Thursday. In order to service the rush, banks will remain open for public transactions on Saturday and Sunday.
Long queues were seen at banks across the country on Thursday morning as people rushed to deposit or exchange the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes in their possession.
मैंने स्पेशली लिया था क्योंकि मैं फील लेना चाहता था कि ये आपके नए नोट्स कैसे हैं. क्वाइट अ कमेंडेबल जॉब एज यू कैन सी कि आपको बहुत जगह इन्होंने 2,000 रुपये मेंशन कर रखे हैं. नोट काफ़ी छोटा है 1,000 रुपये के नोट के कंपैरिजन में.
नया नोट मैंने लिया है, ये 2,000 का नोट है और नया नोट है. बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है देख के. वाला नोट और मैंने एक लेना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी समझा कि ये वाला नोट मेरे को ज़रूरी है और इसमें 100 के नोट भी मेरे को मिले और मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है.
The evening after the Prime Minister's announcement, panic set in among citizens. In order to manage the expected rush, 3,400 additional security personnel were deployed at various banks across the national capital alone. Bank authorities said they were prepared to deal with the crowd surge and urged them not to panic.
कुल 25 काउंटर अभी आज चालू किए हैं और एक्सचेंज ऑफ नोट्स की पूरी तैयारी और अंदर से चल रही है. लोगों को बताया भी जा रहा है कि आप धैर्य रखें, धैर्यपूर्वक आएं, क्योंकि यह कार्य जो है 30 दिसंबर तक चलनी है और रोज चलेगी, लेट आवर्स तक चलेगी, 8 बजे रात तक चलेगी, इसलिए घबराने की जरूरत नहीं.
Apart from banks, post offices also witnessed long serpentine queues at their counters, but the staff were less prepared, due to which people had to wait for longer hours. However, not all banks or post offices had enough new denominations. Many returned home either with hundreds or with new 2,000 rupee notes, as the new 500 rupee denomination was not available.
हम प्रयास में लगे हैं कि जनता को कोई परेशानी न हो और जनता की सुविधा देखते हुए जो कुछ भी हम कर सकेंगे वो सब हम करने के प्रयास कर रहे हैं.
जो मोदी जी ने जो किया वो अच्छा किया, लेकिन इसमें जो क्या बोलते हैं इसको अरेंजमेंट उसमें गड़बड़ेशन है. हमें ऐसा लग रहा है कि 100 के और 500 के नोट जो है वो कहीं ब्लॉक हो रहे हैं.
The finance minister and RBI governor reiterated that there was no need to panic or create chaos. Banks have been asked to work through the coming weekend and also remain open for longer hours. With inputs from Anu Diwan and Navikram Singh, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on, now the Union Government will convene an all-party meeting on November 15th on the eve of the commencement of the winter session of Parliament. The meeting is likely to be attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Rajnath Singh along with representatives of various political parties. The winter session, which normally convenes from the 3rd or the 4th week of November, has been advanced to November 16th this time for early passage of the central GST and integrated GST legislations, which will pave way for the goods and services tax. The issues of army's surgical strikes and allegations by some parties that the government was trying to politicize it and step to demonetize the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes are said to be in the limelight during the session. The government is also considering advancing the budget session by a month or so starting from January next year. The government would also push for passage of the ordinance which seeks to amend the Enemy Property Act. In December, the centre had for the 4th time promulgated the ordinance to amend the nearly 50-year-old enemy property law to guard against claims of succession or transfer of properties left by people who migrated to Pakistan after wars. In other news now, the Samajwadi Party chief Mulayam Singh Yadav put an end to speculation about a grand alliance in the upcoming UP Assembly election, saying there will be no alliance with any party, but there may be only mergers. Mulayam's announcement comes only days after he had met the Congress's chief strategist in UP, Prashant Kishore, over several hours, triggering speculation about an alliance. The presence of RJD chief Lalu Yadav, Janata Dal United's Sharad Yadav and other leaders at the Samajwadi Party's Silver Jubilee had also hinted at a possible alliance. UP Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav also showed his disinterest in an alliance on Wednesday, saying that the Samajwadi Party can win the election on its own.
समाजवादी पार्टी कोई गठबंधन नहीं करेगी. अभी राष्ट्रीय सभ्य ने फैसला हुआ है उसमें स्पष्ट प्रस्ताव है, राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन का प्रस्ताव लागू है। समाजवादी पार्टी का कोई गठबंधन नहीं होगा, कोई मर्जर करना चाहेगा तो मर्जर करेंगे, और कुछ लोगों ने मर्जर कर भी लिया।
Well, moving on now, the Delhi High Court has slammed Delhi government for the prevailing pollution in the city and ranked it as the worst in the country in terms of air pollution. It added that the air pollution situation was grave, leading to at least 1 million deaths. Now, the National Green Tribunal too lashed out at Delhi government for not installing air filters in government schools during the recent thick smog. NGT also directed the Interstate Central Monitoring Committee and state committees to enforce their orders on vehicular pollution, dust pollution, solid waste and crop burning. NGT once again rapped Delhi and neighbouring states of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh for burning crops. The Green Panel also refused to pass any direction on giving free masks to the school-going children and senior citizens, as it observed that a mask cannot protect when the pollution level is 20 times higher than the prescribed limits. Well, Tata Sons today launched another attack on its ousted chairman Cyrus Mistry, accusing him of betraying the trust and trying to seize control of the group's main operating firms. In a 9-page letter, Tata Sons made a point-by-point rebuttal to the letter which Mistry wrote to its board members last month. It also said that dividends from 40 Tata firms declined during Mistry's tenure as expenses increased. However, sources close to Mistry called the claims in the letter as selective data of unsubstantiated claims and half-truths, calling the Tata Sons statement as a reflection of desperation, as none of the reasons mentioned in the letter were ever tabled in Tata board meetings. Meanwhile, Tata Sons has appointed Ishat Hussain as the chairman of India's largest software services firm, Tata Consultancy Services. Ishat Hussain's appointment comes in place of Cyrus Mistry, who was removed as Tata chairman last month. Hussain is a director of several Tata companies, including Tata Steel, air conditioning firm Voltas and television service provider Tata Sky. He will remain an interim chairman of TCS until a permanent chairman is recruited. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Many times in villages we don't have energy or electricity. Okay. So that electricity can be supplied through this solar power or solar power tree. Other than this, we have also a goal to go ahead with a zero waste management. When I say zero waste management means whatever you produce, somebody else is using that. Nothing is a waste.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Harish Irani, Director CSIR CMERI Durgapur on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has embarked on a 3-day visit to Japan to hold annual summit-level talks with his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe. During the visit, the two countries are expected to sign a civil nuclear deal, besides discussing ways to step up cooperation in areas like trade, investment and security. An agreement on the purchase of high-tech Japanese US-2 Shinmaiwa amphibious aircrafts is also likely to be reached. The South China Sea is also likely to figure in the talks. Prime Minister Modi is also scheduled to meet the Japanese Emperor in Tokyo. From Tokyo, Modi will travel to Kobe by the famed Shinkansen bullet train, the technology that will be deployed for the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway. Before departing to Japan, Prime Minister Modi said he looks forward to reviewing the entire spectrum of bilateral cooperation with Japan. En route to Japan, Modi made a surprise stopover in Bangkok to pay respects to King Bhumibol Adulyadej, who died last month. In his condolence message, the Prime Minister described the late king as a statesman, saying his departure from this world is a loss for the international community. Meanwhile, India today recalled 2 more diplomats from its High Commission in Islamabad. The 2 officials were among the 8 Indian High Commission officials named by Pakistan last week. Accusing them of spying, the Pak Foreign Office had released their names, photographs and other personal details in the media, posing a direct threat to their security in the country. 3 officials had been recalled on Wednesday. With this, the total number of diplomats recalled in Delhi has reached 5. Moving on to some international news now. Donald Trump's unexpected election win ignited protests across the United States, with thousands of demonstrators crowding into streets and surrounding his buildings in major American cities. Tens of thousands of Americans in at least 25 U.S. cities, including New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Oakland, San Francisco and Seattle, shouted anti-Trump slogans, started fires and held candlelight vigils to mourn the result. Here's a report. Demonstrators marched in cities across the United States to protest against Republican Donald Trump's surprise presidential election win. The crowds blasted his controversial campaign rhetoric about immigrants, Muslims and other groups.
He is a racist, he is a sexist, he is a neo-Nazi, and he does not deserve to run our country.
In New York, thousands of protesters filled streets in Midtown Manhattan as they made their way to Trump Tower. Hundreds of others gathered at a Manhattan park and shouted, "Not my president."
Not my president! Even though we can't really change anything and we have to accept what has happened, we want them to know that we're pissed. This is awful. And even though we can't change anything, it feels good to stand together with my brothers, my sisters, with people that share my beliefs, and let everyone know that we are not okay with this.
A demonstration of about 6,000 people blocked traffic in Oakland, California. Protesters threw objects at police and riot gear, burned trash in the middle of an intersection, set off fireworks and smashed storefront windows. In downtown Chicago, an estimated 1,800 people gathered outside the Trump International Hotel and Tower, chanting phrases like "No Trump, no KKK, no racist USA."
He's the epitome of a system that's broken down into virtual reality, where we're going on these false notions and premises and nobody knows what's real or why anymore, and it's the painful underbelly that we need to wash away.
In Seattle, police responded to a shooting with multiple victims near the scene of an anti-Trump protest. Police said it was unrelated to the demonstrations. Hundreds also gathered in Philadelphia, Boston and Portland, Oregon. Protests were also held in California, where a Trump effigy was burnt on the West Coast. As anti-Trump protesters aired their grievances with the election, supporters also came out in some places to express their enthusiasm for the president-elect. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Meanwhile, hours after Donald Trump won the US presidential election, the UN atomic watchdog on Wednesday said Iran has exceeded a soft limit on sensitive material set under its nuclear deal with major powers. The watchdog said that it is the second time Tehran has surpassed the 130 metric ton threshold for heavy water, a material used as a moderator in reactors like Iran's unfinished one at Arak since the deal was put in place in January. It had 130.1 tons of the material on Tuesday. The last time Iran overstepped that mark was brief, passing without major criticism from the other countries that signed the nuclear deal last year. But there are questions about whether the incoming Trump administration will react to such incidents the same way. The IAEA is policing the restrictions placed on Iran's nuclear activities under the deal it signed with the US, Russia, China, Britain, France and Germany. The agreement also lifted international sanctions against Tehran. The United States has also confirmed Iran's intention to export the excess heavy water.
The IAEA has observed that Iran has slightly exceeded its 130 metric ton heavy water stockpile limit under the JCPOA by 100 kilograms. So that's about 1/10 of a metric ton. A couple of points to make on that. It's important to note that Iran made no effort to hide this, hide what it was doing from the IAEA. During the course of its ongoing heavy water production, Iran produced a little more heavy water than permitted, but is now taking steps to address the issue.
Let's now get you a roundup of the other international news in Global Buzz. At least 7 people were killed and dozens more injured after a tram overturned in London. People were trapped inside and more than 50 were taken to hospital after the derailment in Croydon. The tram driver from Beckenham has been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. British Transport Police said that they were investigating whether he fell asleep. China today launched a navigation satellite which will conduct in-orbit experiments using pulsar detectors to demonstrate new technologies. The X-ray pulsar navigation satellite, weighing more than 200 kilograms, was launched from the Jiquan Satellite Launch Center. It was carried by a Long March 11 rocket, the 239th flight mission by a Long March carrier rocket series. While in orbit, the satellite will undergo tests on its detector functions and space environment adaptability. Unidentified attackers on a motorcycle threw an explosive device at the French embassy in central Athens on Thursday, wounding one guard. According to officials, the device was most likely a hand grenade. There has been no claim of responsibility for the attack. Some sports news now. India were 63 for no loss at stumps on day 2 of the first cricket test of the 5-match series against England at Rajkot, with openers Murli Vijay on 25 and Gautam Gambhir on 28 at the crease. Earlier today, England were all out for 537 runs in their first innings. The visitors had resumed the day's play at 311 for 4. England's innings was steadied by Centurions Moeen Ali and Ben Stokes. For India, Ravindra Jadeja took 3 wickets, while Mohammad Shami, Umesh Yadav and R. Ashwin bagged 2 wickets each. The series will be followed by 3 ODIs and 3 T20 matches. That's it on this edition of the Bulletin. Have a good evening.